The auction hall smelled of smoke and fear. It was hot, crowded, and loud, filled with aliens from all over the galaxy. Lights flashed over a metal stage where young girls were pushed forward one by one, hands tied, collars blinking red. "Strong back," shouted the auctioneer. "Trained for labor. Quick learner. Obeys without question." Bidders raised their hands. Credits were exchanged. Some girls screamed. Others stared blankly, already broken. And then, silence. 2 girls remained, on the stage. One stood very still, her head down. Her skin was pale purple and her long silver hair hung like a curtain over her face. She looked too fragile to carry even a basket. Her thin hands shook. The auctioneer slapped the side of her cage. "This one. Too soft." Cries at loud sounds. "Hasn't spoken in 2 weeks." The crowd laughed. The girl didn't move. The auctioneer pointed to the other. "And this one? Dangerous, bites, growls. Broke a handler's wrist." The second girl stood tall. Her dark orange skin was scratched and marked. Her eyes were sharp, wild. Her collar blinked fast. She snarled at the crowd. "Untamed. Beast," someone called out. "No use for either," yelled another. "No bids?" the auctioneer shouted. "Starting price 100 credits, 50, 10. No hands were raised. The room was quiet. The auctioneer sighed. Useless. At the back of the room, one man stood with his arms crossed. A human. His name was Reed. He had watched the whole auction quietly, saying nothing. He had seen pain in every girl's eyes, but these last 2, they were different. Not because they were weak, but because no one saw their worth. He stepped forward. "I'll take them." The auctioneer blinked. "Take? No bids." "I'm not bidding," Reed said. "I'm offering something else." A pause, then laughter. "You offering scraps? A joke?" Reed took out a data pad and showed his ID. Private buyer. Licensed. No resale. No chain code. The auctioneer stared at him. "You'll waste your credits on them?" Reed nodded. "They're not waste." Minutes later, the 2 girls were released from their cages. The soft one stumbled. She almost fell, but Reed caught her gently. She looked up at him with wide, scared eyes. He didn't speak. He simply wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. The wild one hissed at him. She didn't want help. Reed didn't force her. He just stepped back and said, "You're free to walk on your own." She stared at him, then followed, silent but watching. They reached his ship, docked quietly at the edge of the market zone. Reed opened the door. "Inside," he said softly. "No cages, no chains." The soft girl entered first, slowly. She paused at the door, like she didn't believe it was real. The wild one walked in after her. She sniffed the air like an animal, checked every corner, then sat by the far wall, arms crossed. Reed didn't lock the door. He walked to the kitchen, started heating soup, and placed clothes on 2 chairs. "They're clean." "Yours now," he said, not looking at them. No reply. He set 2 bowls on the table, 1 spoon in each, then walked to the front of the ship. Let them choose. An hour passed. He didn't go back to check. Then, soft footsteps. The soft girl sat at the... She didn't eat at first, she just stared at the bowl, then picked up the spoon, and slowly, carefully began to eat. The wild one didn't eat at all, but she watched. From the dark, eyes glowing. Reed didn't ask their names. He didn't touch them. He only said one thing before the lights dimmed for night. "You're safe now. You sleep where you want. Tomorrow we talk, if you want." Then he left them alone. In the dark, the 2 girls sat across the room from each other. The soft one whispered her first words in days. "Do you think he means it?" The wild one didn't answer, but she didn't growl either. She just whispered back, "We'll see." Morning came with silence. Inside the ship, lights warmed the walls with soft gold. The air smelled like cooked grain and tea. But the 2 alien girls didn't move. The soft one, Luma, sat curled up in the corner, knees to her chest. Her long, silver hair fell over her face like a shield. Her eyes stayed low. She made no sound. The wild one, Jera, paced like a caged animal, even though there were no bars now. She didn't trust the quiet, or the food, or the man who brought them. Here, but Reed stayed calm. He sat at the table alone, sipping his tea. He didn't stare. He didn't force. He just waited. Later, he left folded clothes and a note on the table. This ship is yours too now. Eat when you're hungry. Rest when you need. No chains. No orders, just time. Jera read the note first. She didn't believe a word. But she didn't tear it up either. She watched from the shadows. Luma, still shaking, slowly rose from her corner. She walked toward the table, barefoot and quiet. Her eyes landed on the food again. Warm porridge, soft bread, a cup of tea. No one shouted. No one hit her. She sat down, then stopped. Her hands were trembling. Too much to pick up the spoon. Jera watched her, her lip curled, but not in anger. She waited, then turned away, pretending not to see. From the cockpit, Reed saw everything on the silent monitor. He didn't speak. He simply turned off the camera feed. Let them have their space. Let them choose. Days passed. Luma began to move with more confidence. She showered. She wore the soft clothes Reed had given. But still, she never spoke. Not one word. Not even when Reed asked gently, "Do you need anything?" She only nodded or shook her head or lowered her eyes. Jera didn't speak either, but for a different reason. She didn't trust her voice. Not yet. One evening, Luma sat by the window, staring at the stars. Reed brought her a warm cup of tea and placed it on the table beside her. "Don't be afraid to rest," he said. She didn't answer, but she reached for the tea. That was enough. That night, Reed sat on the floor of the storage room, fixing wires. Jera walked in, silent, watching. He looked up, surprised. "Can't sleep?" She didn't reply. She just picked up a spare tool and threw it at his feet. "Wrong connection," she said, voice rough. Reed blinked, then smiled. "Thanks." She didn't smile back, but she sat across from him and stayed. The next morning, Luma walked to the table as Reed made breakfast. She stood quietly holding something in her hand, a tiny folded paper. She placed it beside his cup and walked away. Reed picked it up. 3 small words were written inside, shaky but clear. "Am I real?" His chest tightened. He looked toward her, but she had already gone back to her quiet seat by the wall. He wrote back, folded it neatly, left it where she'd find it. Later that day, she opened the paper and read his reply. "You are more real than any star I've ever seen." That evening, Luma spoke, only one word. Reed handed her a soft blanket and she whispered, "Thank you." Her voice was soft, barely more than air, but Reed heard it like thunder. He didn't make a scene, he just nodded and let her keep the silence she still needed. Jera came into the room later and saw Luma sleeping peacefully under the blanket. She frowned, then sat down beside her, not too close, just near enough. For the first time, she didn't pace. The soft girl had spoken, and the wild one was listening. Jera was never still. While Luma now sat calmly in corners and windows reading messages or watching the stars, Jera prowled. She checked every door twice, tested every lock, watched Reed from behind half-open walls. She still didn't trust him. Not fully. Not yet. In her old world, kindness was a trap. A soft voice came before a fist. A gift came before pain. Words came before chains. So when Reed left a clean towel for her outside the shower room, she stared at it for 5 minutes, then threw it back, hard. It hit the wall and dropped to the floor. She growled, "Alone." Later that day, Reed cooked. The smell of spices filled the small ship. He made 3 bowls. Luma came to eat quiet and calm. Jera stood across the room, arms crossed, hungry. He placed her bowl on the table, then walked away. No orders, no demands, just food. Jera slowly walked over, picked up the bowl, and threw it. It smashed against the wall, soup in pieces everywhere. Reed turned, but he didn't yell, he didn't punish, he simply picked up a cloth, crouched, and began to clean. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked gently. Jera bared her teeth. "If I bite you, will you talk back?" Reed looked up and smiled slightly. "Probably." She blinked. Didn't expect that, didn't understand it. She turned and walked away fast, but her breath was shaky, and her heart felt different. That night, Luma found Jera sitting alone in the storage room. Lights off, silent. Luma walked in and sat beside her, still no words. But she placed half of her own bread in Jera's hand. Jera didn't thank her, but she didn't throw it either. The next morning, something changed. Reed's door was slightly open. Jera peeked in. He was asleep in the chair, tools scattered around him, a repair manual still in hand. He looked tired, but not dangerous. Not like the others. She stepped in, looked at him closely, then pulled the blanket from the couch and gently draped it over his shoulders. She left before he woke. Later that day, trouble found them. The ship docked at a small supply station, just a quiet place to fuel and trade. Reed told the girls to stay inside. Luma nodded. Jera growled, "I'm not a child." Reed smiled, "Then protect the one who is." Jera tilted her head, then turned away. Didn't argue. Outside, Reed gathered supplies, but a group of local thugs noticed his ship, not the model, the passenger list. One of them smirked. "He's carrying alien girls, the soft kind, the wild kind." "Easy money," said another. "Let's take a look." Inside, Jera heard the voices before the knock came, then fists, then laughter. She looked at Luma. Luma's hands were shaking. Jera stood. "Stay here," she said. She grabbed a pipe from under the tools and stepped outside. Reed was already outside, the ship trying to calm the men down. He didn't see Jera appear behind him. She moved like fire. Fast, without fear. She didn't speak. She bit the first thug's arm. Hard. He screamed. She slammed the second into the wall. Reed shouted, "Jera!"
"Stop!"
She growled but obeyed. She dropped the pipe. The thugs ran off, bleeding and scared. Jera turned to Reed, chest rising fast, waiting to be scolded, punished, chained, but he just stepped closer. "Thank you," he said. She blinked. "What? You protected your family." She didn't understand. Not until Luma came running outside and hugged her. Soft arms wrapped around her chest. Warm. No fear. Just trust. Jera froze. Then slowly. Let it happen. That night, Jera didn't pace. She sat beside Luma. Close, and Reed didn't speak. He only looked at the stars and thought. The soft one found her voice, and the wild one just found her heart. The ship floated quietly near a forgotten moon, hidden between shadows and silence. Reed had shut off external signals. No trackers, no beacons, just stillness. Inside, Luma was painting on the window with her fingers, drawing stars with foggy breath. Jera was sharpening a metal rod into a blade, not because she needed it, but because it made her feel ready. And Eid, he cooked, just like always. That night, dinner was calm. 3 bowls, no smashed plates, no growls. Jera even mumbled, "Needs more salt." Reed smiled. "We're out." "I noticed," she said, chewing anyway. Luma giggled softly. It felt like peace, But peace never lasted long. They came without warning. A large black ship, unmarked, uncloaked, drifted toward them like a shadow. Inside it, traitors, the same ones, who once caged Luma and tried to break Zara. They had tracked Reed's ship using old auction data and a greedy mechanic's tip. They wanted their property back, and this time, they came armed. Alarms screamed. Reed ran to the cockpit and cursed. "They're trying to force entry." Zara ran in behind him. "Who is it?" "Someone who shouldn't be here," he said. "Stay with Luma," Zara growled. "No, I fight." Reed looked at her sharp eyes, her steady grip on the blade. He nodded once. "Then stay close." Luma stood near the sleeping room, shaking. Zara grabbed her hand. "Don't run." "I'm scared," Luma whispered. Zara knelt and looked her in the eyes. "So was I, until someone gave me a choice." Luma nodded slowly, then stood tall. The black ship clamped onto theirs. The door shook. Reed pressed a button. Manual lockdown. He handed Zara a flash grenade. "Only if they breach." She smirked. "They will." The door exploded inward. 3 masked men rushed in with shock sticks and tasers. "Step aside," one barked. "Those girls are marked stock." Reed didn't move. "They're not stock. You bought them. I freed them. Doesn't matter. Law says your law." Reed cut in, stepping forward. "Is broken." The man raised his weapon, and Zara struck first. She moved like lightning, blade slicing into a taser wire, sparking it out. She threw the grenade. Light, sound, screams, then fists. Reed tackled one attacker. Zara took 2 on her own. They were trained to control. She was trained to survive. But one man slipped past. He grabbed Luma by the arm and dragged her toward the docking door. She screamed, but her voice wasn't weak anymore. It echoed. "Reed!" He turned, but he was pinned down. Zara saw her too, and something inside her snapped. She leapt. The man didn't see her coming. Her blade pressed to his throat. "Let her go." He dropped Luma. Zara didn't kill him. She could have. Instead, she kicked him hard, knocking him out cold. She helped Luma up, whispering, "You're not prey anymore." When it was over, the attackers were bound and locked in the cargo bay. Reed collapsed in the hallway, breathing hard. Zara handed him a cloth for his bleeding lip. "You're getting slow," she said. He chuckled. "You're getting scary." She grinned just a little. Later, Luma brought out tea. Her hands still trembled, but she poured carefully. Reed took the cup and nodded. "You were brave." She sat beside him. "I was soft," she said. He looked at her. "You still are," he replied. "And that's why you're stronger than all of us." That night, the girls didn't sleep in separate rooms. They curled up in the same bunk, safe, warm, together. And Reed sat by the door, guard blaster in his lap, but eyes gentle, because now he knew something for sure. They weren't just rescued, they were rising. Morning came slowly. Sunlight from a nearby star shone through the window, painting golden lines across the ship's floor. Reed stood in front of the bathroom mirror, a bandage on his jaw. His body ached from the fight, but he didn't care. The girls were safe. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed. Luma stood at the doorway, her long silver hair still messy from sleep. "I had a nightmare," she whispered. Reed turned. "Do you want to talk about it?" She hesitated, then nodded. They sat at the small kitchen table. Luma held a warm drink in both hands. Her fingers still shook sometimes. "I dreamt I was back in the cage," she said quietly. "But this time, the key was in my hand." Reed waited. "I could leave, but I didn't, because I was scared I'd get hurt again." She looked at him. "Is that weak?" Reed leaned forward. "No, that's what pain does. It makes freedom feel dangerous." Luma blinked. "But freedom is supposed to feel good." He smiled gently. "Sometimes it feels scary first." In the other room, Zara trained with a metal pipe, swinging it in sharp circles. She didn't say it, but the fight had shaken her too. Not because she was afraid of pain, but because she'd never defended someone before. Only herself. Later, Reed brought out something he'd been holding back for weeks, a sealed file hidden inside one of the girl's old collars. He had found it after the auction but waited to open it. Now, and they were ready. He sat them down. "This file," he said, "holds your records, the ones from before the auction." Jera crossed her arms. "Burn it." Luma looked unsure. "What's inside?" Reed took a deep breath. "Medical scans, behavioral notes, sale orders, everything the slavers wrote about you." He slid it across the table. "No one else will ever see it again, but if you want to know, you can." Luma reached out first. She opened the file slowly. Inside was a list of her defects. Too emotional, prone to tears, unfit for obedience, training, responds to comfort with confusion, withdraws from loud voices, recommended for silent labor only. Tears filled her eyes. "Is this what they saw?" Reed nodded. "Yes. But it's not what you see?" "No," he said. "I see someone kind, someone who survived without becoming cruel." Jera grabbed the file and flipped to her page. Her report was worse. Dangerous when cornered. Instinctively attacks handlers. Subject has wild tendencies. Rejects discipline. No signs of loyalty. Too damaged to retrain. She snorted. "Too damaged," she said. "They should have written, would rather die than kneel." Reed leaned back. They feared what they didn't control, so they called it broken. Jera looked up slowly. "Do you fear me?" "No," Reed said without hesitation. "But I respect you." She blinked, surprised by his calm, then closed the file. "Good. Because I'm not done growing yet." That night, Luma painted again, this time on real paper. She drew a cage, but this time it was open. Jera came over, looked at it, and asked, "Is that you?" Luma smiled. It was. Not anymore. Jera pointed to the stars she had drawn around it. "And that's us now?" Luma nodded, "free and real." Reed watched them from the corner of the room, arms crossed, a soft smile on his face. He had seen many scars in his life. Some healed with time, some with stitches, but the deepest ones, the ones you can't see, those healed only when someone believed in you. Outside, the stars moved slowly, and for the first time in a long time, the girls slept without fear, while the human who saw their beauty stood quietly between them and the past. The recording room was small and quiet. A camera stood on a tripod. One soft light hung above a table. Reed adjusted the mic, checked the lens. His fingers trembled, not from fear but from responsibility. He was about to tell a story the galaxy had tried to forget. Luma sat beside him, holding a small drawing, a cage with its door wide open. Jera stood near the wall, arms crossed, silent but watching. Reed looked at them both. "You don't have to be here if you're not ready." Luma gave a small smile. "We are ready. Because of you." Jera didn't speak, but she stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder, then walked away. She would guard the door, her way of saying, "Speak. I'll keep you safe while you do." Reed pressed record. His voice was quiet at first, careful, like waking something that had been sleeping too long. "My name is Reed Talon. I'm human. I was a cargo pilot. Now, I'm a witness." He looked into the camera. "I bought 2 girls from a slave auction. One was shaking, one was snarling. The crowd called them useless. I called them people." He paused, letting the silence settle. "Luma is soft. She flinches at loud sounds. She hides when she's afraid. They said she couldn't work. They never asked if she could feel." He looked down. "Jera is fierce. She bites. She resists. They called her wild, but no one asked why she fought." Outside the room, Jera listened through the door, her jaw tight. No one had ever spoken for her, not until him. Reed continued. "They weren't broken. They were caged. And when they were freed, they didn't become dangerous. They became alive. He held up the file, Luma and Zara's old profiles. This is what the system saw. He dropped the file on the table. Now here's what I see. He turned the camera gently toward the side wall where Luma's drawings were taped up. One of stars, one of a small hand holding a big one, one of a girl curled beside another girl, both smiling. Then he placed a photo of Zara beside them. She stood with a broken pipe in one hand, her back to the camera, standing in front of a sleeping child. The protector, the survivor. "I'm not asking for pity," Reed said. "I'm asking for change." He leaned closer. "No one bit on them, now I ask you to listen to them." He ended the recording. For a moment, no one moved. Then Luma placed her hand on his. "I was always told to stay quiet. Thank you for making my voice loud." Reed uploaded the video to 3 networks, Human, Neutral, and Galactic. He didn't expect much, but by the end of the day, thousands had watched it. By the next day, millions. Messages flooded in. "Where can I help? How do we find more like them? I was caged too. Now I don't feel alone." Reed sat in shock. "So did Luma, but Zara," she just nodded. "Told you," she said. "People don't change until they're forced to see." A few nights later, they received a call from a neutral station. A senator from a minor system spoke directly to Luma. "Your words, your story, helped us vote to ban caste-based auctions in 6 colonies. And it's just the beginning." Luma cried. Zara smiled, just a little. Reed stared at them both. 2 girls no one wanted. Now voices that shook the stars. That evening, Zara stood in the hallway. Luma joined her, quiet as ever. "You okay?" Zara asked. "I used to whisper," Luma said. "Now people hear me." Zara smirked. "You were always loud inside. It just took someone brave enough to turn up the volume." And inside the ship, Reed added one more drawing to the wall. A picture of Luma, Zara, and himself. 3 figures holding hands beneath a sky full of stars. Written underneath it, "Family is not found. It's chosen." The ship didn't feel like a ship anymore. There were still blinking panels, old wires, and scratches on the metal floor. But now, there were also soft blankets, warm lights, and laughter echoing in the halls. Zara painted her blade handles in bright colors. Luma pinned her drawings to every wall. And Reed, he smiled more now, because the quiet wasn't empty anymore. It was safe. It was home. A message arrived from the Council of Refugee Worlds. "You're invited to speak at the Galactic Forum. Bring them. Let them tell their story. Let others see what hope really looks like." Reed didn't reply right away. Instead, he asked the only ones who mattered. In the main room, Luma hugged her knees on the couch, watching old star maps flicker across a screen. Zara sat beside her, fixing a broken drone. Reed entered quietly. "We've been invited to a big place. Very public, very far." Luma blinked. "Will they listen?" "They want to," Reed said. Zara raised an eyebrow. "Or they want a good story." Reed shrugged. "Maybe both." Silence followed. Then Luma whispered, "Do I have to speak?" "No," he said gently. "Only if you want to." She paused, then nodded once. "Then I will." The forum was unlike anything they'd seen. A shining hall made of glass and crystal. Hundreds of species gathered, cameras, reporters, curiosity. When Reed stepped up to the stage, people clapped politely. When Zara walked out behind him wearing a black jacket and a wild grin, the room fell quiet. And when Luma appeared, wrapped in a soft blue scarf, holding a drawing of her old cage, the room went still. Reed spoke first. Only a few words. I didn't free them, I simply stopped walking past. Then he stepped aside, letting them speak. Luma's voice was soft, but clear. I was told I was too soft to be useful. That silence was better than screaming, that my tears meant I was broken. She held up her drawing. This was my world. Then she tore the picture in half. But it's not anymore. Jera stood beside her. I was told I was too wild, too angry, too loud. I fought because no one else ever did. She looked around the room. I still fight, but now I choose who I protect. The crowd stood. They didn't clap right away. They simply stood in silence, because some truths don't need applause. They need respect. Afterward, dozens of delegates came forward. We're changing the auction laws. We've started rescue missions. Your story saved lives. Luma smiled. A soft, real smile. Jera didn't smile, but she walked with her head a little higher. On the flight home, Reed made hot tea and handed them both a mug. Jera drank it like it was nothing. Luma held hers gently. She looked at Reed. Can I ask something? Always. Back. Then, at the auction. Why us? Reed looked at her, then at Jera, then out the window, where stars passed like silver rivers. Because everyone else looked away, he said, and I couldn't. The ship landed quietly on a green moon. No cities, no chains, just sky and wind. They stepped out together, no collars, no papers, just freedom. Reed set down a wooden sign in front of their new cabin. Luma leaned in to read. Jera just crossed her arms and watched. It said, home, not for sale. They had been forgotten, labeled, caged. Now they were family, and not even the stars could take that away.